Well, hey there. I'm Liz St. Jean, and this is the Rise in Your 9 to 5 podcast, where I help sensitive high performers who want to have meaningful and fulfilling careers, making an impact in the world. It's where strategy meets intuition to become a better leader with more joy, less stress, and endless impact. So let's break free from perfectionism, imposter thoughts, and that inner rule keeper that keeps you in a career comfort zone. It's time to become unapologetically you and step into the life you were meant to live. We're going to talk presence, productivity, and having it all. Or, as my 4-year-old would say, we're going to take over the world. So let's get to it. Hello. I believe we are live now. Liz here with the Mint Ambition. And I was about to start recording my podcast when I thought there was a bit of a visual element to it. I thought it'd be super fun to do the podcast as a Facebook Live. So I'm Liz. I have the Mint Ambition. I do professional development work. And if you're watching this, you are in our Facebook group, Rise in Your 9 to 5, all about professional development for quietly ambitious professionals. And if you're listening to this, it's because you're with my podcast, Rise in Your 9 to 5. Now, this training today is sharing a couple of models that I'm bringing together. I'm calling it the 3x3 framework for getting tapped for a promotion when you are a quietly ambitious professional. Now, some of you may not have even heard me use this phrase before. It's one that has just come together for me in the last couple of weeks, and I think it's such a perfect phraseology or verbiage for the person who is either more introverted, quiet, or sensitive, and is ambitious and is doing it in a way, usually you want to do it through your emotional intelligence rather than through your elbows. And you do want to advance and you do want to get promoted. You may even secretly dream of becoming an executive one day. So give me a hand raise in the comments, or if you're listening, it'll give me a mental hand raise wherever you are. If that describes you, if you feel like you are a quietly ambitious professional. Okay, because in that case, this training is for you. So what I wanted to share with you, so for those of you who are just listening in and you're not seeing what's on the screen, I have drawn behind me is first with a triangle. And within the triangle, I've got a Venn diagram. So that's 3 overlapping circles. And to me, so there's 3 aspects to this, the 3 points of the triangle, and then the 3 circles themselves. And together, they all form, it's almost like a bullseye into the center. So I'm going to take this bright fuchsia-ish color, and I'm just shading it in, okay? Because this, to me, what I'm about to share with you are things that I've developed and thought about and worked on in coaching sessions with the clients that I've worked with and the programs I run. This to me kind of encompasses some really key elements in getting tapped for a promotion. And we can have a whole side conversation, and we might come up as I go through this training about what comes up for you when I say that, what comes up for you around the phraseology of tapped for a promotion. For those of you who saw, you might have seen either in the group, in the Facebook group, or over on my LinkedIn page, I just posted that as a poll. I was really curious because I know for some people, it kind of brings up a bit of an ick factor of like, ew, I don't want to be like seen as trying to be tapped for promotion. And other people, it's like, yes, I know how to do that. That's awesome. I do it all the time. And then somewhere in between, I think, are the majority of people, especially those who identify as quietly ambitious, where it's the feeling of like, oh, I'd love to do that, but I want to do it authentically. I don't want to compromise myself. I don't want to, I don't want to be gross about it. I want to do it authentically. And then there's also the people who are like, oh, yeah, that's intriguing. I really love that idea, but I don't even know where to start. So this is essentially a bit of a where to start place. And what I'll invite you to do, actually, let me put out this offer out there for anyone who's intrigued by this framework and you're not quite sure like where you're stuck or what you need to work on, reach out to me either through LinkedIn is a great place, a message on LinkedIn, or reply to any of my emails, or send me a DM on Instagram. That's another good place. And if you reach out and give me a bit of a sense of what you're working on, what you're struggling on, then what I'll do is I'll record you a private video just for you. I'll record a private video with some of my thoughts, and I'll put it in a place where you can actually respond back. So we can have a chance to kind of chat back and forth, called asynchronously. So we won't get on a live call, but we will have a chance to chat back and forth. So there you go. There's your offer. Just find a way to reach out to me and we can make it happen. Okay, so we're trying to aim for the center spot, right? Again, so it's 3 overlapping circles, a Venn diagram inside of a triangle. So I'm going to start with the 3 circles of what I see as a really natural, authentic way of getting tapped for promotion, being that person who is identified as either ready for a promotion or has the promise to be promoted. And one of them I'm going to start with, see which one I'm going to start with. I'm going to start with the very top one. And the very top circle, so imagine, so this is within a triangle, 3 equal sized triangles, so there's space at the top and on the left and the right. The very top, I'm going to call it energizing. Okay, so we can call it energizing. I'm going to put in brackets underneath the word positive. Now, for those of you who've been following my podcast, especially the last couple of weeks, you'll know that episode 49, so just a couple of episodes ago, I gave a whole overview of the energy leadership model, the 7 levels of energy leadership, and that's the modality that I'm trained in. And so that's one of the reasons I use the word energizing rather than positive, because the word positive can have, it kind of has some different connotations for us. But I put it in brackets to recognize sometimes we think of it as positive, and you'll hear the word positive from people. But basically, you want to be thinking about, what kind of presence do you bring to your workplace, to your conversations, to the work that you do. And what my perspective is, my opinion is that you want it to be energizing. You want to be the kind of person that brings energy into a room, and you want to be aware of what kind of energy you're bringing to the room. And that's where the word positive comes in. As a little aside, in my coaching modality, we actually use the word anabolic, which you can hear more about in other podcasts, but sort of means the same thing. But the idea is that you're building energy, you're bringing a constructive, productive, then that's the word positive often sneaks in there, positive energy to what you're doing. So that to me is a really key component, that you have that kind of presence, to be the person who's tapped for a promotion, and it's being done in an authentic way, in a natural way, not in kind of an ew, gross, slime ball kind of way. We don't want to be slime balls in this, right? We want to do it authentically. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2 of the 3 circles, I'm going to do the circle on the left next. I might get a different color because I like to mix things up. Okay, on the left, I've got the word visible. I wrote the word visible down there. This is really key, okay? And visible means a couple of things. One is that you are being seen, right? That we're not kind of hiding away, letting everyone else take the credit for things, so always staying quiet. Like, you do want to be visible. That doesn't mean you need to be loud. It doesn't mean you need to take credit for everything, and certainly not taking credit from others, but you do want to be visible. And a key piece of this, kind of wrapped into it, is that you do want people to know what your career goals are, right? So a lot of times what I see is people keeping their career goals secret. I remember writing an email once, your career is not Sweet Valley High. It's not a bunch of secrets that you're meant to whisper to others. And even worse is not to whisper to anyone, is that you want your goals to be visible as well. Again, this doesn't mean that you need to be gauche or crass or feel like you're being braggy out there, but you do want people to know what your goals are. They need to know what their goals are for them to help you. So you need to be visible, and your goals need to be visible. Both those things need to be visible. Okay, so that's a really key piece, being visible. And that's a hard piece. We're going to come back to this in a second about what is especially hard about this when I get to the triangle. Okay, so first, energizing or positive, how you want to say it. Second, visible. Now, the next one is that you want to be impactful. And for this one, to get more details on this too, I'm gonna point you to a couple of other episodes where I go into more detail, because to me, being impactful in a way that's going to get you promoted, that also feels authentic, that doesn't feel kind of, gross or slimy, is about solving next level problems. Okay, next level problems. If you've never heard me talk about that before, you can check out episode 37 and episode 32, which is strategic thinking for sensitive professionals. Okay, So you want to think about solving next level problems. I go into detail in there. Plus, if you can catch any of my ups I've run, almost every single one of them, I go into detail, or at least a bit more detail on next level problems. If you really can't find it and you're really still like not really sure what I mean by that, again, send me that message, because let's chat about it. I can share more about what it means and maybe translate it for the industry you're in or the company that you work for. Okay. But you want to be having impact. You want to show that you're having impact, because if you are, you're energizing and you're visible, but you're not having impact, you're what's called the good time leader, right? It's a good time. You're wonderful to be around, but you want to be showing that impact at the same time. Now, on the flip side, if you're only visible and you're only impactful, but you don't have that energizing or positive presence, sometimes I call it being the wrecking ball. You're kind of a wrecking ball. You probably get things done, but it's not necessarily uplifting, and it can burn people out. Now I know a lot of my listeners, like if you're watching this or listening to this, you probably don't have that challenge of being visible and impactful without being positive or energizing. But if you do find that to be a challenge, send me a message. Let me know. Let's chat about this and see where we can bring in that energizing presence. And the last piece, if you're energizing and you're impactful, but you're not visible, well, then you're the invisible helper. You are doing wonderful things and you're having impact, but people aren't necessarily seeing it, right? And you need to have all three. So this is my view. This is my perspective. And, if you disagree, leave that comment below. I'd love to have that conversation back and forth as well. Or if you're listening on the podcast, send me a note. Let's have that conversation. I would love to hear your perspective. But to me, my perspective, from the coaching I've done, the research I've done, and the people that I work with, these are the three most important components to get that to that center place, that center where we're being tapped for a promotion or a special opportunity or a new role or whatever it is, but you're being tapped for it. Someone's coming to you saying, we want you for this role. Okay. So those are the three in the center. That's the first three. Because if you remember, I said it's a 3x3 formula. So it's wonderful to have those three. But here's the challenge. This is what I see people run into as a challenge, is that, how do you accomplish it? So I've got this triangle outside of this Venn diagram of the three circles. To me, to make this work, you have to have alignment between three elements, okay? Element number one is that you need to have strategy. There has to be strategy behind it. And so I'm going to put that down here. So you need to be strategic, right? If you're not being strategic, if you don't have strategy, then that is a lot of effort. Probably is getting, I don't want to use the word wasted, but a little bit. Like you're doing a lot of squeeze for not a lot of juice, is another phrase that we like to use sometimes. So you want to be strategic. You want to have a strategy in how you're doing this, okay? And then you also want to have your tactics line up. So you need a strategy and you need your tactics, right? So it's one thing to have a strategy, right? You can put a strategy in place, but then if you don't follow tactics to execute on that strategy, then again, you're just spending a lot of effort and not necessarily getting a lot of results. So you want your strategy, you want your tactics, okay? But there's one more component that is so critical. This is a lot of my coaching is around this. A lot of my programs are around this, because this is one of the biggest challenges, especially early on when we're starting to get comfortable, being visible, having that presence, being impactful, but especially in the visibility. And this is why I'm writing it right beside visibility, is the mindset. Okay. So you'll probably have seen a lot of programs out there, a lot of coaches, depending on how much you follow other coaches or other programs, or the books you read or the podcasts you follow. There's a lot on tactics, a ton on tactics, right? How to write your resume, how to prepare for an interview, right? And again, there's nothing wrong with that, because that is a key piece of this 3x3 matrix or 3x3 formula. You're going to see as well about strategy and, thinking strategically, looking at it as a chessboard and not just a checkers board, right? So we have a lot about that. Now, the third one, though, is the mindset. You want that mindset, a strong mindset, that powerful mindset that's going to make sure all of this works together, okay? So I put the strategy, tactics, and mindset. I've got that in this triangle outside of the diagram because it really supports it. It really makes sure that these three pieces, the energizing, the impactful, the visibility, that all those pieces are working and they all work together towards that central place where you're being tapped for a promotion. Okay. So for those of you who are either here live on Facebook or you're watching a replay, give me a comment below. Let me know, like, of this 3x3 formula, which one do you feel really solid in? And which one do you feel like, ooh, a little bit shakier there? Let me know in the comments. And for those listening on the podcast, and as well to those watching the Facebook group, you are more than welcome. I encourage you to reach out to me. Send me, again, a note on either LinkedIn, Instagram, or reply to any of my emails. Let me know where you land on any of these three, and we'll start up a little conversation. I'll send you a video and we'll be able to have a little chat about it and see, is there anywhere I can give you a little bit of a nudge or a little bit of a tip to help you get some movement in any of these areas. So there you go. The 3x3 formula on getting tapped for a promotion. With that, have a wonderful rest of your day. I will see you. For those listening, I will talk to you next week on the podcast. And for those of you here in the group, I'm sure I will see you around. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Now, before you go, make sure you click to follow the show. This way, you don't have to go looking for the latest episode. I'll come to you. Just click the plus button or the follow, and you'll get the latest episode fresh off the press. Thanks again, and remember that you are amazing. Now get out there and rise.